Today is September 16, 2019. Welcome to Millbrae Planning Commission meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to begin. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, please? Present.
Vice Chair Davis. Just Commissioner. But I'm here.
Take your time. One more time.
I thought,
Vice Chair Quigg.
present.
Commissioner Davis. I'm here. Commissioner Durham.
Present.
Commissioner Wong is.
Thank you. Can we have an agenda review on, it's a resubmit for,
I'm sorry, wrong line. It's a minutes review.
oh,
Mistype, wrong line.
okay, all right. It's a minute review. It's a resubmit from September 3rd, which is the May 6, 2019 meeting minutes. I believe we had some discussion about this last time with some changes that we proposed. Did everybody have a chance to review and make sure that it's okay? Anybody have any changes that they'd like to propose? Motions?
Okay, I'll motion for the approval of the minutes for May 6th, and thank you for going back and changing, making those changes.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Joe and a second from Commissioner Davids. Your votes, please. Yes. Second vote. 4-0. The minutes been approved. Agenda review. Does anybody have any comments about the agenda tonight that they'd like to make changes on? Vice Chair Grip? Anything? Nope, nothing. So now we're on to public communications. This is reserved for persons wishing to comment on any item that is not on tonight's agenda, but is within the purview of Planning Commission. Everybody is limited to 3 minutes and 30 minutes total. I don't have any speaker slip in front of me. Does anybody wish to speak with regards to anything that is within our purview but not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we have closed public communication. There's no new business. So the first hearing item is 1221 Sleepy Hollow Lane. It's for a design review to allow renovation of an existing single-story residence and construction of a new second story on a single-family residence in the R1 zoning district. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman Fung. Like the chairman mentioned, this is for a design review for a renovation to the first story and then a new second story on 1221 Sleepy Hollow. The project site is located in West Millbrae. It's just southwest of Green Hills Country Club, as you can see on the map on the project's location over here. Sleepy Hollow Lane, it's a neighborhood street. It connects Awani Drive to Helen Drive. The existing residence, it's located on an 8,950 square foot interior lot. And I've got to mention that there is a public easement of, I believe, 3,225 square feet public utility easement that then creates a different developable area, which is 6,620 square feet. The house was built in 1960, and it's described as a single-family house, a one-story structure. The existing home, it includes a two-car garage that's attached, and it's zoned in the R1 zoning district. It's identified in the general plan as a low-density residential area. On this picture, you'll see a picture of the house existing on the left, and then on the right, it's the proposed rendering for it. The existing site contains a one-story single-family house. It's 2,044 square feet, and it has 3 bedrooms, including closets, 2 full bathrooms, a kitchen, a dining room, living room, and an attached 2-car garage, as mentioned earlier. The project would include renovations to the first story, as well as a new second story. Since the proposed second story is over 500 square feet, it requires Planning Commission's approval. excuse me, the proposed two-story home meets all the development standards per city code. As you can see on the table that we have up in the screen, we have all the required setback, the proposed setbacks, the existing setbacks and the proposed setbacks. And both for the first story and for the proposed second story, the front, the sides, and the rear, they're all met for the new home. Lot coverage increases. Both lot coverage and FAR do increase for the project. Lot coverage increases from 25% to 29%, where 50% of the lot size is the maximum allowed for the R1 zone. For its part, FAR increases as well from 35% to 53%, where the maximum allowed for R1 zone is 55%. And that 55% is of the developable area, that 6,620 instead of the whole lot of the 8,950. Let's see. Here's a view of the site plan that just illustrates all the setbacks, how they're met both for the first story, and then on the right you'll see the second story setbacks as well. So the proposed work includes converting the existing garage into new office space. And here on the floor plans, you'll see on the left the garage space that then is converted into a new office, music room, and closet. The project also proposes to remove 2 bathrooms and an enclosed rear porch. The proposal also includes the demolition of an existing detached shed in the rear. And if we go back to the site plan, you can see it. Let's see if I can point to it. Right over here where the hand is, if you can see that, that's the shed that's being proposed to be removed as well. Let's see. A new covered front porch, a 2-car garage, an entrance, a bath, a laundry, and 4 additional closets are proposed for the first story renovation. The proposed second story includes 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 4 closets. And here in the screen, you can see the proposed second story floor plan. The existing roof pitch is 412, and the proposed second floor roof would be a combination of 312 and 512 for the pitch ratio. And just going through these slides, this is the existing front elevation. It goes up to the highest peak of it being 16 feet, where the highest allowed in R1 is 30 feet. This is the proposed front elevation then, and goes up to 25 feet and 3 inches. This is the maximum size. Here's the existing rear elevation where we have an enclosed rear porch that's being proposed to be removed. And this is then the proposed new rear elevation. And then here at the bottom, you'll see the existing right elevation. And on top of it, you'll see the new right elevation where you can see the consistent siding all around the house. And then you can see the proposed front porch as well. And then just to finish on the elevations, the left side elevation. Again, at the bottom, you see the existing. And then on top of that, you see the new left elevation. In accordance with the City of Millbrae Community Development Standards, so middle requirements for residential development, a total of 5 proof of neighbor consultation forms were sent out. Out of those 5, 4 were returned in support of the project, while 1 was not returned. Excuse me. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission reviews the project, considers the public testimony and the findings as presented, and considers adopting the attached resolution, approving the application for the renovation of an existing single-story residence and construction of a new second story on a single-family residence in an R1 zoning district, subject to the attached conditions of approval. And staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, staff. Anybody have any comments for staff or questions? Thank you, staff. Would the applicant like to come up and make a presentation?
Good evening, Council. My name is Sarah Pose. I'm the homeowner, and I'm also the designer for the project. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to review the project. And I'm here if you have any questions regarding the design of the project. But we're very excited. We're currently Millbrae residents. My husband and my 2 sons and I live up on Hillcrest, and we're very much looking forward to staying in the community for a very long time in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any speakers with regard to the project either. Does anybody wish to speak on behalf of this project at all? Nobody? No slips. Okay. Commissioner comments.
Oh, I had one just to the applicant, actually.
Sure, absolutely.
If
the applicant
step
can.
back.
Ms. Post?
First of all, I have to say, this letter is beautiful. I love it that you did it like this.
Thank you.
It's the first time I've ever seen it, where like a family picture, an introduction to the neighbors, and a lot of times the neighbors actually want to. Not a lot of time. I would say almost every time, neighbors want to have a good relationship with their neighbors, and so this was really nice that you had a picture. Just curious, did you consider going a little higher than an 8-foot ceiling on both floors? Because right now it's showing as 8 foot, and it looks. I mean, honestly, for me personally, I think the design is beautiful. It'll be a great improvement in general. But I was just wondering, since you're doing that anyway, did you give some thought into maybe making the ceilings a little bit higher? Usually we're trying to get people lower, but in this case you have some room, so.
Yeah, in this case, the existing ceiling height is 8 feet, and so for structural purposes, we were trying to maintain the integrity of the existing structure and then keep the ceiling heights consistent.
As simple as possible. Okay, all right. Okay, just a thought, though, so.
Thank you.
I don't have any objections because it fits everything. It's a refreshing change when we don't have any exceptions requested, and I think it'll be a real improvement to what's already there. So personally, I don't have any issues or any further questions.
Yep. Anybody else have any comment or questions for the applicant?
Other than it's beautiful. No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no speaker slips. Okay. Anybody want to open up?
Do we need any more? Anybody else wanted to? Did you want to discuss some more?
No,
Okay, go.
I think it's a lovely project. I think it looks really nice, and it will be really nice in the neighborhood. So I'm ready to make a motion to approve the project, the design review to allow the renovation of an existing single-story residence and construction of a new second story on a single-family residence in the R1 zoning district, subject to all the conditions and findings as stated in the staff report.
I'll say a few things. I like the design. It's really nice and modern. I mean, it's almost a tear down, but, it's good to see that. You have a pretty sizable easement area that you currently do have, and it does take away quite a bit of your developable area, but you still strive to well within those parameters, meet all the setbacks, front and back, and you have a pretty sizable, setback in the rear as well. So you have a very good sized yard in the end. Nice contemporary design, modern farmhouse, beautifully designed. I couldn't wait to see it done. I agree with Commissioner Joe that if you so choose to have a little bit more interior height space, you could certainly do that. I understand that you try to maintain the wall height, so do you not intend to take those walls down? Okay. Technically speaking, you could put a 4x12, header all the way around, and that will increase 1 foot of your living space. That's a possibility, but obviously that's something that you can decide on later on whether or not you wish to do that. For structural integrity purposes, you can still make it work. Otherwise, I applaud you for meeting all the design standard. I think this is a good example of something that would fly through the commission relatively quickly. Not too many of those.
Not too many of those.
Certainly not within my chairmanship. So we're well done. Thank you. Second? Your votes, please.
Okay.
4-0. You've been approved, subject to 10 days right of appeal. Congratulations. Second item on the agenda, 7B, 910 Crestview Drive, for design review to allow the construction of a new addition and complete interior remodel of an existing single-family residence in a single-family R1 zoning district. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. The applicant for 910 Crestview Drive is requesting design review to allow the construction of a new addition and complete interior remodel of an existing single-family residence in a single-family residential R1 zoning district. The project site is located on the west side of Millbrae in Glenview Highlands neighborhood, approximately a quarter-mile east of Skyline Boulevard. Crestview Drive is a north-south oriented collector street connecting to Larkspur Drive on the north and Tuolumne Road on the south. Here is the location. This project is proposing a complete remodel and addition to an existing one-story, 2,478 square foot single-family structure, resulting in a new 4,094 square foot structure. The existing residence is located on a 17,347 square foot interior lot, was built in 1959, and is described as a single-family one-story structure. The parcel is zoned single-family residential and identified in the general plan as low-density residential. The 2,478 square foot ranch-style house has 4 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, a kitchen, dining room, family room, living room, fireplace and pantry, a covered porch, covered patio, and entryway. Included is an existing attached 590 square foot garage. The project proposes to renovate a substantial portion of the interior house and alter the exterior significantly, therefore requiring Planning Commission review and approval. The proposed design would include a complete demolition and renovation of an existing family room, kitchen, fireplace, living room, 3 bedrooms, covered back patio, front entry, and porch. The existing attached 2-car garage would remain. However, the garage door would be relocated. So the entry would be off of the driveway, off of the street. A new 711 square foot addition will be added to the front of the existing structure and infill the left front of the property to provide an additional bedroom, 1 full bathroom, 1 half bathroom, and a renovated kitchen. 150 square feet would be added to the rear of the existing structures to allow for a new family room and new enlarged master bedroom. The existing roof pitch is 4 and 12, and the proposed roof would be 4 and 12. So this slide, as you can see, illustrates the site condition. It is a large lot, but because there are slopes that exceed 30% and there are easements, the easements are shown in yellow, and the slope area is shown in blue. The staff report explains that a total of 7,192 square feet is actually removed from the overall site area, making the net developable area, I believe it is 10,155 square feet. The red portion of this site plan shows where the addition would go. Currently, the driveway entry is on this side, or the garage entry is on this side. The proposed change would show the entry from the street onto this side. There is a slight addition to the rear of the property. The site is encumbered with the slope. We did get geotechnical reports so that we can have that information. The the recommendation was that they not build any closer than really what they have, and they haven't proposed that. We've worked with this applicant for several months. The original proposal came in was for a second-story addition. The second story, again, was the thing that triggered the geotech report. It turned out that it actually would have been a better solution. We worked with them because they would require exceptions. We worked with them so that we didn't require the exception for the second floor addition and put the addition into the front of the property rather than adding a second floor. So the applicants were very flexible and amenable to providing design revisions so that it would reduce any sort of exception request. This slide shows the existing elevations. As you can see, the building height is 16 feet 5 inches. The rear yard open space, again, because the slope was pretty undevelopable, they have a large open space of 6,335 square feet. The existing parking, which is in conformance with the zoning code exceeds the zoning code of 590 square feet. The existing FAR is 24% or 2,478 square feet, and the lot coverage is 15% or 2,478 square feet. The proposed elevations show an additional 1.5 inches added to the building height for a total of 17 feet 7 inches. There's no change to the rear yard open space. The parking, again, there's no change because the only thing that's changing is the door location and the entry, but the square footage is remaining the same for the parking. The FAR is increasing by 16% from the existing 24% to 40%, which would make that about 4,094 square feet. And the lot coverage would be increasing from 15% to 24%. For a total of, it's 9% increase for a total of 4,094 square feet. As you can see, this is the interior layout for the project. Zoning doesn't really get involved with the interiors of the sites, but this does illustrate how the building would expand and the footprint is changing. So this is the area where all of the addition is going to go in. This whole backside is changing for the interior use. Again, the footprint is staying pretty tight considering the lot. They don't have a much horizontal area to expand. So they have expanded to the front where they do have a setback that they can infill. This slide shows the existing and the proposed roof plans. The current roof style is a cross-hip slope of 412, and the proposed would be a combination roof for a slope of 4 and 12. So that would match the existing shingles, the color, and the slope. This is an example of the topographic survey. These are the rendered elevations, so it shows you the color scheme of the proposed materials. We have a paint color of sequoia fog. The trim would be an angel's feather, which is a lighter white color. The doors would be the garage door and the front door are a Mexican chocolate. Siding is James Hardie fiber cement, and the roof is carbon composite shingles. A veneer would be the Virago Flats Imperial Stack Stone. We found that the required findings have been met for this project. And for 910 Crestview Drive, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the project, consider the public testimony and the findings as presented, and consider adopting the attached resolution approving the application. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for staff? Thank you, Linda. Can we please have the applicant to come up?
Good evening. My name is Castro Rostani. I'm the owner, and I wanted to thank you for your time considering the project. My wife and kids, we have lived in Millbrae. We had a house, and we sold it because we were expanding the family, and we wanted to wait for the kids to grow up, so we wanted to build something a little bigger for them. And so that's why we sold the house that we had previously in Millbrae, and we bought the one in 910 Crestview, hoping to be able to expand. But unfortunately, there was a lot of issues with the easement, and as was mentioned, over time we went through a few iterations, and we've been quite happy with the last iteration, and we're hoping that this will get approved so we can get the project going. Because right now, paying a rent and mortgage at the same time is really killing me. So, and any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
You're going to move the garage door to the front of the garage building. What's going to happen to the lawn in front of it, and will there be any landscaping replacing it on the other side then?
We may do that. I'm not exactly sure what we had discussed, but the current entrance to the garage is very awkward. You have to make a 90-degree turn, and it's very difficult to do. So I think the leftover concrete that is on that side that we are expanding in front of it, we probably will turn that into a green or some sort of a landscaping environment.
Okay.
Whatever is left over is just going to be used for the driveway into the garage.
Because I would hate to lose the green stuff.
No, well,
So as much as you can put back would be.
Absolutely,
Okay, good.
but we were hoping to change it into more of a environmental friendly.
That's okay.
Yeah,
as long as there's
but
some
it's going to be
plants.
landscaped.
Perfect.
Anybody else have any comments or questions for the applicant?
Just a quick question of staff.
We are only requiring 2 parking. The 2-car garage is sufficient with the size of the house.
Yes, our zoning code only specifies that there needs to be, for a single-family residential, we're only required to provide 2 covered parking spaces.
2. Didn't we have something that said after a certain size that we had to have another one?
I believe that design recommendations were provided, but they didn't change the zoning law. So as far as I know, the zoning code only requires 2 parking spaces. We can encourage an additional surface parking, but we can't require it.
Any more questions, Commissioner Quibb?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Joe? Would you like anything? Okay. Would you stick around if any questions a little further on? Thank you. I don't have any speaker slips either. Does anybody wish to speak on behalf of this project at all? Seeing none? Okay. Open up for commissioner comments and questions and discussions.
Start.
Wish to go first? Commissioner Joe?
Sure, I'll start. I was going to ask exactly the same 2 questions that the other commissioners asked, which is regarding the landscaping, because definitely it would be good to, I think it definitely is much better functionally with the driveway, with the garage door being in the front, facing the front. So it would be great to have that. On the site plan, it shows as lawn, like new lawn on here, but whatever you do just to make it something that's nice and we get that green back. And then I did think that because this is over 4,000 square foot home, so I thought we did have something where we did require one more even on-site parking space. So that I was a little bit, I was going to ask that same question, but because I remember something about it.
There is
so
something
what is
that-
Those are guidelines that I believe that the commissioners had worked on several years ago and had been implementing. Staff does work with the applicants to provide additional parking if it is of a certain size.
Okay.
We generally don't require them to use the square footage of the house if it's not specified in the zoning code, which it is not. It has been a practice that we would include a guideline, as a guideline for parking, but it's not required in the code.
Okay, I mean, because I clearly remember something like that too, so that's that we have done in the past, so I guess it's just a guideline, and we're not necessarily requiring that, so.
Right, and there is room for a surface space. If that's something that the commission would like to see, we can work with the applicant on providing a third surface space. But again, if you're requiring them to build a third covered parking space.
I don't think that's what we're not necessarily saying it has to be a third covered parking, but in the past, I do remember a third space, so I'm going to go back and refresh my memory, but that's maybe my only thing.
Yeah, we can maybe
Yes.
relook at that.
Yes, and but I did want to say thank you to the staff and to the applicant for all the dealing with all the constraints of the lot and whatnot, and being able to kind of come up with a design that works that within, again, wow, we got 2 for 2 tonight, no exceptions requested, so that's always great. So I'm glad to see that, and I think it will I think function better and look better, to have that bumped out. So I don't have any objections except that one question that I had about parking.
My only concern sometimes when we spread out, instead of going up, we're covering up more of the environment, and so that's not good either. So at least if you go up, you've got more of the environment available, but that's not something we can judge.
The good news is the 17,000 square foot lot.
Huh?
The good news is the 17,000 square foot lot.
Well, I know, but we're
a lot
still
of nature left at the back.
covering more
I
and
understand.
more.
I get it. But at least this one's not a little teeny lot. You got a big one.
And we've had a lot with little teeny lots.
I mean, you do have a required rear yard of 10 feet, and this one provided 95.
Yeah.
So it's just a little more than the compliance standard.
It's big.
I do have one simple question for the applicant, if you don't mind. A little questions on the facade. You have siding in the front.
Yes.
Okay, and then you intend to use James Hardie 6-inch fiber cement? Just
Yes.
regular lap siding?
Yes.
I mean, it's okay. It's not a big deal, but for the front, we do prefer. I mean, I do prefer, if I may, to see something a little bit more better than that 6-inch fiber cement siding. Something you have, like maybe a shiplap siding, something like the Artisan that is a little bit better quality siding, especially just the front.
Sure.
I mean, for the side, for the rear. Use what you like.
Just the front towards the street.
Just the front towards the street. Have something a little bit better quality-wise. If you can do that, that'll be great. Right, for the side, for the rear, it's not so visible. Use a regular lap siding. It's perfectly okay. Are they 6 inches? I thought they were 8 inches lap sidings. You have 6 inches here. I thought they were 8 inches, 8 1/4, I think.
Well, the contractor knows better than I do about the.
To the mic. Just want to clarify.
So I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be exactly 6-inch or 8-inch. The process took a little bit more time than we anticipated. But when we get to the, through the building department, I think that will be established too.
I mean, you intend to use the commodity type where you can just pick it up in any lumber yard, right? Those are the lap siding you're thinking about using?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are 8 1/4. Yeah. So, but in any rate, for the front, if you can use something a little bit better quality, I would certainly appreciate it. Right. For the side and the rear, regular James Hardie lap siding is fine.
Okay.
If you can do that.
Sure.
Anybody else wish to make any comments, questions for the applicant? No. Okay.
I'm fine with your suggestions.
Thank you. Mr. Joe. Okay. Thank you. If you'll a speaker slip, you got 3 minutes.
Which piece were you talking about? I know, I saw it.
Speak first. Excuse me. Speak first, and then you can, right, provide a backup slip later.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. My name is
sir?
Edward Yoon. I just moved into the neighborhood. I'm just south of them, 890 Crestview. I closed 1 month ago. And this kind of dropped on me last minute. The way they came about is kind of interesting. But what concerned me about this project was they wanted to extend the rear of, they told me they were extending 4 feet. I'm not sure if it's true, what the true numbers are, but they told me they're only extending that one wall. They're actually extending 2, and they're actually moving the roof. That I didn't know about. So this would actually block all the view from my side view. Initially, I told them I'd be okay with it if they just moved that one wall. I did sign that letter that they sent out to neighbors. It was never mentioned in the meeting. I said, no, but let's talk. We met. They said they're just moving that one wall 4 feet. It seems like more than 4 feet. In fact, they're moving 2 walls and the roof. And that's kind of a concern to me.
Is that it?
That's it.
You're 890 Crestview.
I'm 890 Crestview.
So you're 3 houses down?
1 house down. And I'm not trying to create rafts with you guys. We're here for the long term. But I met all the neighbors. No one's met you guys. I want to meet you guys on favorable terms, but I'm just trying to work with you guys.
So the record shows that you have been given a notification, 890 Crestview, right?
90.
You've been given the notification on 7/12/2019.
So the notification went to the original owners, Edwin Fry.
Also, your reason,
Correct.
okay,
He's brand new.
I guess. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you. Does the applicant wants to address that issues?
He's worried about the view.
Commissioner, through the chair.
1 second. Yes.
Wanted to point out that I did not highlight that when my presentation, but I do have notes on the public notice information. So in accordance with the City of Millbrae Community Development Department's submittal requirements for residential development, a total of 5 proof of neighbor consultation forms from the adjacent residences have been distributed and returned to city staff. Due to design changes resulting from the review process, 2 rounds of neighborhood consultation forms were distributed. The neighbor responses for round 1 included 2 in support, 0 opposed, and 3 unreturned. And for round 2, showing the current design, 1 was in support, 0 were opposed, and 4 were unreturned. As you noted, that 890 Crestview, we have a form that was filled out January 14th and signed by Edwin Fry and resubmitted in support of the project.
Right, but the second round, I think that's what we're in discussion, right? Which is the July 12th round, where a form was sent to 890 Crestview, but no responses were received.
Yeah, it's not that you didn't do anything right. It's just, it was a change of ownership.
The applicant did submit certified mail to that address, so it would have arrived at the address through certified mail.
Right, but he wasn't, if I understand correctly through the chair,
Yes.
he wouldn't have gotten anything because he wasn't there.
Right, that I'm not disputing that. I'm just reporting on what's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we didn't know the day at which the new residents move in, but,
Yeah.
the proper procedures were done, I imagine, based on what we're reading on the staff report. Anyhow, does the applicant want to address some of this things that your neighbor has talked about?
We had a meeting with the new owner of the 810 Crestview, and we showed him where the new walls are going to be.
890 or 810?
I'm sorry, 890. And we showed them where the new walls are going to be, and we had a discussion as per his request. He wanted to meet, and we met and we discussed the plan. And there was a concern about the view from their bedroom that we discussed, that there are some trees there, and also the angle is very, it doesn't seem to be that obtrusive, just having extension of the wall in towards the opposite side. The wall that we were extending was not going to be that obtrusive, and that's why he agreed to the new design. But the roof going up was just basically, as we expanding the house, the roof has to be going according to the new expanded house too. So we didn't discuss every detail of the house, but the wall that was concerned, we did discuss that. And he was agreeable to that.
Okay. Okay.
Not through which part? When we been instructed to, Mr. Rastani instructed to send information with the new development to all the neighbors, the set of the plans been distributed, not exactly what's inside, but the outside and the way how the house is going to look. So people who were signing the letters will have absolute idea what this construction is all about. And we met with the guy on site. We went outside, and he was, citing that, his view will be obstructed with the wall we'll be building. But when we went outside, his window from the bedroom that seems to be obstructed, not even visible because it's covered with a fence and a big tree. So his argument is invalid. And we told him how we're going to move the wall. The wall is moving only 4 feet, and this was the back side of the house, literally. So if somebody wants to come to the property and inspect it, that's going to be very visible that this argument has no merit. So it all depends how you try, at which angle you're trying to see from your view, then that house where Mr. Rastani is building should not be standing there because it's obstructing the view of the guy in the 890.
Well, it could affect them.
Okay. Just one moment. I think there is a change of building height from the existing to the proposed. It's 1 feet 2 inches changes?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, it's a one-story addition. So is it all the address you have for the neighbor?
Yes.
Okay, you may sit down. More discussions?
Can staff, can you put up A-2, the site plan? Okay, so that bottom house is actually 890 Crestview, the one that's in question right now, right? And basically, my understanding is that the rear addition that I guess they're concerned about is that square. It's about, is that 4 feet?
That little piece?
That little piece sticking out. That's 4 feet. I think that's what it was about. I think it was a little over 4 feet. Is that?
This is excessive.
6.
4 feet, 6.5.
I mean, the protrusion in the rear? 6.
It's 6 feet? Okay, so that's what I wanted to get. Is that,
Is it all 6 or just the big piece?
is what?
This piece here, right?
I'm talking about here. So the wall that's facing the next door house, that jutting out extra piece. It doesn't, is it 6 feet? Like 4 feet or 6 feet, 4 to 6 feet? I guess Commissioner Fung's saying it's 6 feet.
Well, based on the site plan, it shows 6 feet protrusion.
Okay.
On A3, it looks like less.
Right, that's why I was looking at A3, so.
This section would be 4 feet, and this is the adjacent property.
Right, so that section going across, that dark, right, that's about 4 feet extra
This section.
that you're pointing at right now?
Yes, that's,
And the rest is smaller.
right, so the darker gray is the infill area.
Right, so that darker gray, the addition is about 4 feet, 4.5 feet,
I believe it's 6 feet.
6 feet.
Yeah, the
Okay,
distance
that's what I'm
from
trying
this wall to the exterior wall is 6 feet, maybe 4 inches.
Okay,
Why does it look different on A3?
yeah, that's where I was going to, is an A3. I guess it's going long, no, I think it's going farther.
So there is some infill that this is the addition is infilling on the back part of this property.
Okay, so it's basically going to line up with that
Yes, it's going to be flush with the existing.
current family room.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to get that clear. It's about 6 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't see where this is going to go. This is Yeah, I'm not sure.
And right now, there
Right
is a-
here, but from here to here is 6 feet.
Okay, so right now we have a post that for the patio, existing patio, but it's coming down, so we're not changing anything. So the post is standing right here,
Okay,
existing post.
Okay.
So whatever we're adding,
but that's our roof line. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, we got a clarification. Is it a 6-foot growth or is it a 4 foot 6 inches growth?
The roof line is a 6-foot growth.
So the roof line is a 6-foot growth in the rear. Okay. And then there's a height difference of 1 feet and some inches.
2 inches.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The fellow that spoke, can I ask him a question?
Which one?
The fellow, the
Neighbor? Sure. The neighbor, if you want to take the podium.
I was just looking
I
at,
think get your name, sir.
Edward June.
Huh?
Edward June. Call me Ed.
Please, go ahead.
isn't the view for you more in the other direct, more this way than straight across?
It is at an angle. I do have a picture of from the side view, and if they weren't moving the room or the roof, I would be fine with it. But they never mentioned the roof. Like you said, they're moving the wall. They excluded the roof. Moving the roof would actually block whatever I have left in the side window.
It's too far away, we couldn't see.
What are you talking about? So the roof ends right here. There's a plate structure. We plan on extending the wall right here. I asked them, hey, are you going to move the roof? They said no. He said 4 feet. I was like, all right, as long as you move 4 feet, I'm okay with that. I didn't know about the roof, but they moved the roof about 6 feet. They put it right about here.
So the tree is an existing tree that is in their property?
Their property.
Can we see it?
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
And where is this from? Which part of the room is it from? I mean, which part of the house is it from? It's a bedroom?
Yes. And I do have the notice to.
Sure, we know that.
To us.
We know that.
And I actually have a copy of what I signed for them.
This is your response to them?
My response. And I left them a note to give me a call and we can talk about it. And I signed it on the 22nd of August.
And for the staff, we never received their responses?
I'd have to take a look at what you're looking at, but we haven't received anything.
I got a call from about a week after that.
It's an opposition. And you said you mailed it out when?
I turned into his mailbox probably on the 23rd, the day after I signed it.
You turned it into a mailbox, mailed it back to the planning department.
No, I dropped it off back in his mailbox. I returned it to him.
Him, as in?
910 Crestview.
The applicant?
Correct.
You give it back to the applicant?
Into his mailbox.
I see. And this is the original copy?
I gave them original. I made a photocopy for myself.
I see. Did the applicant receive a copy of this? Yes, please. Mr. Yun, take a seat, Mr. Yun.
So we don't live in that address because it's gutted, so he may have dropped it, but we have not received it. We haven't checked the mailbox for some time now.
I see.
How did you get my phone number?
I'm sorry?
How did you get my phone number?
No, when did you drop this off?
You called me
Okay, so this is not meant to be a discussion, I'm sorry. You addressed to the commission, not to each other.
No, I don't know which one that is. I did receive a letter that we actually called, and we set up an appointment so we can meet with him and discuss but I thought that he dropped something after our discussion in our mailbox. That's why I'm saying that we haven't checked our mailbox for about a week or 10 days now. But we had received something from him, and that's why I called him and set up a visit with him because he wanted to meet with me.
When did you meet with the neighbor?
We met, I think it was last weekend or
You have a date? September something?
Saturday. It was Sunday, actually. Was it last Sunday? Last Saturday or Sunday. I don't remember exact date, but it was
So last weekend?
last weekend, yes.
Okay. So the opposition was dropped off to you at August 26th. So your discussion will be after this.
That's right. So when I heard that he said he had dropped something, I thought that after our discussion, he had dropped something else off. That's what I said. I haven't checked our mailbox for about 1 week to 10 days, so I may have missed that. But this, yes, we did see that, and we did discuss it, and that's why I called him to make an appointment because he was concerned about the design. I wanted to discuss it with him. That's why we met in our house at 910 Crestview.
Okay. All right, take a seat.
Did somebody else want? I lost it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Do you think the trees? So would this have gone back to the city?
Okay, may I through the chair?
Yeah, of course.
I'll just go out on a limb and say I don't see much of a problem with the view blockage. We don't have an ordinance that protects views, but also when we do have guidelines where we want to protect views, it's from the primary. We're talking about primary views from the general, like a common living area, like a living room or something else. But and then looking at the picture, I don't really see a huge view at this point because there is the fence, the trees. It is a single story, so it's not even going to be an extra shadow. And it's 6 feet. So I understand that there's some concern that it'll feel like more a building than it is now, but it's really, I don't think it'll show as much. It'll take away as much as it feels like it might be. Whether there's a roof, I mean, if they're extending the wall, they have to extend the roof. It's kind of a, it'll just go hand in hand with it. So personally, I don't really see as much of an issue in terms of the view, regardless of how communications went, and I think with the constraints of the lot and everything, the applicants are actually trying to do as little as possible compared to a lot of other things that we've seen where people have built back. So I would be inclined to not have an issue with it. And
Thank you. Anybody else want to make a comment?
I have one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are those trees on
Question for who, first of all?
890 Crestview, those trees that were in the picture?
The picture shows the tree that is within the subject property.
It's in the subject property.
Correct.
Will that tree be coming down? I'm sorry?
Sorry, if you could just stay close to the mic, we got to get you on record here.
And no, not at this point.
I think maybe if the tree wasn't there, he'd have a whole different perspective. However, then you're going to be looking at the building.
Okay.
But based on the picture that he showed, that he took, and the tree looks pretty, but if you look at the landscape there, the panoramic landscape, it is taking the view away.
But it's not something that we had had in discussion about it. So maybe down the road, if we had a discussion, we might consider that. But at this point, we were not any plans up for that tree.
Well, I'm wondering if that was down, if all those trees were down, if it was...
I'm sorry, but are you suggesting that they take it? I mean, my point is there is not much, they're there. So what the view that's there is not really that much of a view that's being lost by the subject. So I'm not sure, are you saying, are you suggesting maybe take those down?
I'm the one that always wants to put trees up.
Sure.
However, I'm just thinking, maybe if he didn't have the trees, he would feel like it was a lot more open space.
I think then you would see a building more.
Yeah.
So I feel like the tree is actually shading the fact that there's a building there. And again, you know, I mean, I'm a proponent of, you know, whenever we can preserve a view, great, but I think this is not a primary view, and it doesn't look like it's from the bedroom, and it's not a substantive view where I would go, okay, that's going to totally lose the market value of the home or something like that. It doesn't even feel like that, so.
If he had moved in too much.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's just a thought that might make them feel more comfortable that they're getting more view than what they have right now. What do you think?
I wouldn't vote for taking out mature trees that are actually screening privacy. I mean, you might get a little more sunlight, but then you're going to go, oh, well, my God, we can see over the fence now. I mean, it's not the kind of thing we would normally ask anybody to do, to take out trees.
We're usually
on the side property line.
We're usually telling them to put.
Could you plant some trees there? I mean, that's what we usually tell people.
I know. I just, you know, I'm feeling just a thought that maybe to soften the situation, but
I mean,
I don't feel strongly about it.
It could be the opposite, like if you put some really pretty, you know, nice trees or foliage or something there, it could actually look better than it is now.
That tree looks pretty, like it needs some help anyway.
One second. So I do have a question for the applicant. Do you have a landscaping plan for the side of the house compared to where the neighbor is?
Not at this point, because we were just concentrating on the design of the house first. And the landscaping in the front close to the street is going to be the next line, and then the side will be after that. So,
would you have a plan to put in more landscaping, trees, and to screen between yourself and the neighbor?
There's a fence issue. There's a fence between the two units that.
I understand. I'm talking about landscaping, such as trees, screening effects.
Possibly, I don't know at this point.
Would you be open to that idea?
I'm open to the idea, yes.
Okay, so let's say if we were to come up with some sort of a plan later on with the planning department where you can put in some vertical trees that screens between the new addition, you know, compared to where the neighbor is, so that, you know, they see a greenery instead of seeing more stucco or more siding. That would probably be a good thing. Wouldn't that be agreeable? I mean, the reality is, just to be fair, from my perspective, I think, you know, if you're growing the house, there'll be some sort of a blockage one way or another, right? You know, you're building more houses, and because we just need more houses. So, you know, is it a significant view blockage? Probably not, right? I mean, it's particularly, you consider this is only a one-story addition instead of a two-story addition, unless we tell people don't build. Otherwise, there had to be some sacrifice here and there somewhere. But I do agree that if there are ways for you to screen off those buildings with more landscaping to soften up the changes that you're making and make their life a little bit better, right? So that they look out and see a tree instead of looking at more stucco or more siding, that would be a good thing. So I would say if you can work with the planning department to come up with some sort of a landscaping plan, I think that is your 7-foot public utility easement, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you can make sure that it's either within your own private property or within the easement, that there's some sort of a landscaping that will soften up your addition, right? I think that would be more amenable to the neighbor, from my perspective. Commissioners, agreeable?
It looks like it's already got screening. From the picture I saw, it looks like there's already vegetation there, so if they need to add some more, if that makes everybody happier, that's okay, but I think it's kind of already on its
Right.
way.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a plan with the planning department that they can come up with later on as part of the building permit stages of it.
If that makes the neighbor happier, okay.
I also want to point out,
Yeah.
Commissioners, that there is a rather generous setback on the rear half of this property.
True, 20 feet.
So there's a 20-foot setback beyond what's required of the 5-foot setback. So there is quite a bit of distance, and staff would be happy to work with the
The
applicant.
rear is, close to the rear is right about 20 foot, 1 3/4 inches, 20 feet plus,
Correct,
right? So normally it's 5.
correct.
Yes,
So there is a generous setback.
fair enough. Okay. Just stay close. There might be more later on. Anybody else?
Actually, I do have a question of applicant. Sorry. I know he told you to stay close, so sorry.
We did tell you not to exercise before you come in here.
Of exercise. Well, I'm just curious. So the back, you have a lot of trees.
It's actually
Back there?
further down the slope.
They're further down. So in terms of like what it looks like if somebody's just at the building, you don't see them at all, right? So they're how high? Anyway, they're lower down the slope.
About at least 20 feet, 30 feet down the slope.
Okay.
More bushes as you get closer to the edge.
Okay, and they get. Okay, I was just thinking if they're tall, then if those could go be shortened, but I guess that doesn't impact the
No, we'll
neighbor.
address them because they will interfere with our own view too. So
Right.
If they get big, we'll get rid of them. But they're always
You'll always keep them kind of trimmed down so then even the neighbor can enjoy the view. Okay, great, thank you.
Staff would also like to point out that the slope of the street is going away from 890. So 890 is actually slightly uphill from the 910 address.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think, though, the fact that they are higher, in a way, that's why the ceiling, because initially I was like, the roof shouldn't make a difference if you're on a level plane, but if you're higher up, then actually somebody else's roof could impact you more. But anyway, I still feel like I don't see a huge view change blockage.
Anyone else? Good. Anybody want to make a motion?
Where is it?
I got it. To allow the construction of a new addition and complete interior remodel of an existing single-family residence in the single-family residential R1 zoning district, subject to the findings and conditions of approval in the resolution.
Can we add his recommendation on the siding in the front?
The what again? The
Which-
siding? Yes.
yeah.
I think they were going to come up with some better siding in the front with the planning department instead of just using the James Hardy lap siding.
Correct. Staff will put that as a condition of approval, that they improve the quality of the materials on the front, and what they have listed in the current drawings for the sides and rear are satisfactory.
That's fine, yes. And also the requirement to work with the planning department to come up with some sort of a landscaping plan neighboring 890.
Correct. So we'll have 2 additional conditions of approval.
Very well. Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Davis.
I'll second it.
We have a second from Vice Chair Quibb. Your votes, please, Commissioners.
Oh, I'm hiding you.
Everybody? Okay. Ms. Quibb, you have not voted yet.
Sorry.
We have a 4-0. So the project's been approved. Congratulations. Subject to 10 days right to appeal. Okay, that's all for the public hearing today. So we have any staff updates?
Yes, there's one staff update. The staff is continuing to work on the active project list, the spreadsheet that will have additional information as far as the status, what stage approved projects are. That's going to be posted on the website. So we're continuing to work on that, and we'll have a report back on that for next time. And that's all the updates I have this time.
Any commissioner wishing to make any comments?
Is it
Chair?
my turn to?
That's an announcement.
Oh, sorry. I'm just ready.
Who would like to make a commissioner comment?
I would like to make a commission comment.
Commissioner Joe.
If I may. I think it would be great. I'm not if we can have the design review guidelines be worked on at some point, because I think especially things like landscaping plan, I think that's something that we've all expressed that we would like to see with every submission. And that would be helpful to have it as a standard. And then the other is to really be, if we can, as much as possible, views, kind of the consideration of views, and have that outlined more clearly for people so that it's clear. It's kind of a guiding principle we have right now is, primary, it has to not be a significant view obstruction of a primary view, but it's not an actual design guideline that's been adopted, is my understanding. So I think having something like that in place where it's a lot clearer to people, those kind of things I'd really like to see just kind of moving forward. I know staff has a lot on their plate, but it's something that keeps coming up, and I'm like, okay, is this in an ordinance? It's not in the ordinance, but it is somewhere, and I've seen it, and then I hear, well, that's a guideline and it's a principle, but we haven't adopted it, and it's like, okay, but if it's for me as a planning commissioner, I'm trying to keep a handle on all of this that's going on. I can only imagine for an applicant coming in, it's really hard. So I think having that clarity, and especially like a landscape plan. I think when we looked at the some template before, but definitely having a landscape plan can make a big difference in terms of curb appeal, in terms of even views to the neighbors. So I do think that that's something that I would like to see as a standard moving forward.
Yes, so staff, we can take that back to the development director and the landscape plan as a submittal. And then agreed that, looking at how views are addressed, and clarify that as part of the design guidelines. That definitely is something that we can look at. And then I forgot to mention also that we are adding to our submittal requirements a boundary survey. So that also is going to be a new requirement. And this is basically in part to address issues like roof heights and views, the issues that have come up on previous projects. The development directors has sort of noted that and believes that a boundary survey should be required as part of that, so that it be directly tied to elevations, so that if issues come up about heights or views, we know exactly what elevations we're talking about. And also for clarity as far as like fences and boundaries, sometimes there's issues regarding where the boundary is, and fences encroaching on other properties. So this would address that right at the onset.
Just curious, what does that cost? How much more did we just add to their bill to get through the city?
Well, my understanding from the development director is that this is like a common requirement. Other cities require it as a submittal. He estimated that it would add about $1,000 to the cost, but that given the overall project, that's reasonable to have the clarity as far as the site geography and the measurements and the height of the roof line and looking views and stuff, that it's a reasonable cost to actually have that clarity and assurance when we go to like measure roof heights and all the required inspections that are required, building inspections, fire planning, final inspections. Given that all of these inspections are happening, we want to be able to base it on a boundary survey.
I mean, this is a relatively common requirement, given that, especially when you're changing the envelope of the building, requiring a boundary survey so that we have a clarity. Because, for older properties, encroachment happens all the time.
Oh, yes.
Wrong fence lines, property building in someone else's property. I personally have had a property where my neighbors encroached me by 2.5 inches at 2-story and higher.
I have a question on that. Is that type of boundary survey like what they did on the houses down here, just so I better understand it, on Helen Drive? Okay. And
Yes.
we're not requiring that now?
Right, no, we're not. And this is sort of a simpler type survey than some of them that perhaps you're used to seeing, which are the topographic surveys. And those we do require on steep hillsides where there's considerable slope and, the geography and the terrain and easement locations and other issues that are dealt with. Those we would typically require a topographic survey, and those can be a little bit more expensive. But this would be a boundary survey, which just has the basic clear information as far as the boundary lines of the property lines for the property.
I just want to make sure that we're mindful about the cost, right? I mean, adding $1,000 to the plan, some might say is a lot, some might say is not much, but I think we need to be sensitive to the need of it. For property that are growing on the side, that is approaching the setback line, then those things would certainly be a requirement. For property that are growing, either through the front or the rear, where there's a lot of setbacks still, in place, that you're not anywhere close to encroaching into the setback area. Some of those requirements could be reevaluated and see if this is really truly required, given how much setback they still have left within the developable footprint. So, if we can help, the applicant save a little bit of money, we should. But if it's required, then we should do it for the benefit of everybody. Because if they hadn't done it and they have questions, with regard to the plan later on, that kicks the plan back, the carrying cost would easily eat into the cost of doing a topographical survey. So,
I think it's even more important when there's been a lot of additions, then you don't know where the property line is anymore. The houses that were just built in XYZ, and you can tell nothing is ever, they're still original. But there are a lot of homes that have had a lot of additions, and some have been legal and some maybe not so much. And
semi-legal?
Not so much.
I mean, I would say for property that are built to the property line, then that certainly would be required. Right, we have had some of those instances in the east of El Camino Real. We have some properties there that buildings are all the way to the property line. For buildings that are not so close to the property line, then you sort of have to look at it on a case-by-case basis and see if the addition really encroaches close to where the setback area is. If they're close, a boundary survey is a good idea. If the proposed addition is not close to that, take some leeway.
Yeah, I believe there would be some flexibility in that, but I'll bring back your concerns regarding the cost and whether it can be looked at more on a case by case basis. I can bring that back to the development director.
Thank you.
Sure.
More commissioner comments?
Yeah, and I'm sorry to have started a discussion. I didn't mean to.
That's okay.
Just a thought. The other is, and the Taiwu restaurant, the CUP extension was to the end of this year, December of 2019. So I'm not asking for any answers right now. I'm just kind of curious as to if there will be any movement on that, or an update in the future, possibly.
Is there a date for that?
I mean, I'm not going to, it's up to whatever happens, but it is December 2016 was when we approved a 3-year extension, so it is coming up.
December 16, you say?
December of 2016, and it was a 3-year extension, so that means it's going to come up at the end in December.
I was thinking about it the other day.
So just to note at some point that it would be good to have some kind of an update as to what the thoughts are moving forward.
I agree. So, Mr. Fielding, would it be possible for us to have an update to that, say, 4 weeks from now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Second meeting of October?
Yeah.
For Taiwan update? It's good to set some days, Commissioner Joe. Anybody else want to make any commissioner comments? No? All done? Announcements. Here we go.
Maureen's done it the last 2 months, but the Millbrae Community Foundation, woohoo, I hope everyone can come. You can buy your tickets online, or you can mail a check, and I've got some flyers in City Hall. So it's one of our major fundraisers, and anyone that's watching at home, this is what it looks like, and it should be a really, really fun night. Thank you.
It's a concert at Cappuccino's Little Theater, and it's a band called the Riptides, and they play basically like Beach Boys music. It's going to be totally fun. So do buy your tickets. You can go online to our website, millbraefoundation.org.
Anybody else want to begin?
Like the TVs.
And the day after that, I do have my shredding party in San Mateo. So that after, if you're tired, I will be there. So shredding party, that will be in San Mateo. And then I believe there's going to be the second ADU workshop coming up as well, right? October? So October 10th. The workshop, like they're doing kind of a town hall thing for ADUs.
ADUs.
Yeah.
I think we already had 2 of them, didn't we?
Right. I thought there was one more
Yeah.
There is.
coming up. So.
What kind of responses have you been getting? Mixed? Mixed?
Yep. No, we've had sort of a mixed responses. People had some concern about parking. There's sort of 2 sides to it. Some people are basically coming down on the side that we need to do whatever we can to improve the housing stock in Millbrae, and they're really supportive of the ADUs and improving housing, less concerned with parking. And then on the other side, neighbors that are concerned with parking. So we sort of had a little bit of a split there. And then we've had some really good suggestions from some architects that came to the meetings that made some interesting suggestions about, looking at lot size, and for larger lots, allowing a larger type of ADU, and then for smaller lots, maybe making the ADU a little bit smaller than, the state says 1,200, which is sort of the max, but having it sort of adjustable toward the lot size. And also there was a sort of a lot of support for the idea about maybe relaxing the setback, the 10-foot rear setback to 5 feet to accommodate an ADU for lots that are, sort of smaller lots. And so there's been some interesting comments about that, and also encouraging comments about looking at a shuttle program to provide alternatives to people living in the hillside residential areas to be able to come down to the downtown area, having some kind of public transit to relieve some of that pressure for parking and needing vehicles up in the highland areas of Millbrae. So we're busy collecting and tabulating and analyzing the feedback that we've gotten, and we're preparing a summary report on that, and we'll be coming back to Planning Commission and Council with the feedback that we received.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that having some sort of a minimum, for regardless of the lot size, because we do have some substandard lots here in Millbrae. So having a minimum for what this ADU would be approved for would certainly be a good idea. And for larger lots, we can consider some sort of a sliding scale. As the lot goes higher, it goes bigger, right? Then we can allow a little bit bigger ADU, certainly with a cap. We do have a housing crisis here in the state, but I don't think we have a parking crisis here in the state. So, it's more important to house people instead of housing cars. And the cost of living is very high. So having smaller units and be more affordable would certainly be the goal of the ADU to begin with when the state law was enacted. So
Probably we should stop talking about it, because it probably will come back to us someday, and it's not on the agenda, and you're still collecting public input. Right. So we should probably stop.
Anyhow, so one thing, given what we've seen today in terms of, neighboring consultations, Is it the developer's responsibility to bring these things back, or is it something that, I saw that. So, I mean, you know, in cases such as this, where the property owner did not get a copy of the consultation form, and then obviously it fell through the crack, do we have a better mechanism in place that we could collect these things to ensure that these things don't happen again?
Well, staff works with the applicant to make sure that they reach out to all adjacent neighbors with the site plan.
Yeah.
And the proposed project. In cases like this where the home's for sale and then a new resident comes in a month, recently in 1 month, sometimes we'll get calls to the planning department, and staff tries to reach out and have them come into the office to look at the plans. But sometimes the person doesn't come in, or we don't hear from them, and that's really, so when it becomes last minute like that, it's really staff will reach out, but it's really up to the adjacent property owner and the applicant to encourage them to come into the planning counter office so that we can review the plans with them and we can be made aware of the issues and concerns. I think in this is sort of a rare instance where the adjacent owner had just moved in to a site, and there wasn't enough time to sort of have that meeting. But we would set up like a staff meeting with the adjacent property owner and then the applicant to see if we can work through some of the issues. But we do need to know a little bit earlier to be able to address those and make any revisions before we go to Planning Commission.
I mean, the challenge this is that, I mean, I understand that in this particular case, the neighbor is a new resident, just moved in, and they had the chance to meet with the project applicant, which is a good thing, and I feel, that part of the due process has been served. However, this consultation form did not get back to us, and it is an opposition, and it's a sole opposition. So I'm not questioning the intent of the applicant, but, from a motivational standpoint, right, it's hard to motivate property owner to bring back opposition consultation form. So is there something that we could probably make it a little easier for neighbors to bring it back?
Yes,
back to the planning
it's
department?
actually, we ask the applicant to turn in, but it's actually can be turned in by the adjacent property owner directly to staff. It doesn't have to come through the applicant, so we'll accept it. We get adjacent neighbors that come into the counter and turn in the form. So we'll take it either way as soon as possible. However, it makes them comfortable, and the sooner they come into our to the planning counter with their issues and concerns, the better, so that we can address them and work with the applicant and the neighbor to come to a design that works for both of them. But if sometimes adjacent neighbors choose to voice their concern at the planning commission meeting, and that's out of the staff's hands at that point.
They certainly can. I mean,
right, and that's
whether or not they put in the consultation form at all, they can certainly come up and speak.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is there a way for us to make sure that if there's an opposition, that we actually get to see these forms?
Yes. What we do, sometimes if we haven't heard from them, we do certified mail receipt. We have done in the past is actually, reach out to the neighbor if we're able to contact them some way, or have a phone number, or we'll try to be proactive and reach out to them with an additional letter. That's something that some of the staff we've done in the past.
If I may,
please.
I think what we're looking for is actually clearer instructions. The form currently says that the applicant is to return it to the city.
Oh, okay.
If they have a choice, it should be stated. And,
okay. Yeah, we can.
And if we have to go so far as to include a return envelope, that might help as well.
Sure.
We can't just sometimes reach out if we can, or if we find a phone number. If it's an option for them to deliver it straight back to the city, it should be on the form.
Fine. Yeah, staff can do that. We'll clarify on the form that they can mail it in, turn it in, come in person.
I mean, we could easily put it in the rear and say, if you fold it, stick a stamp on it.
Suggestion. Yeah, we can do that.
Then the city's address right there, and then they can just mail it right back. Sometimes it's hard to motivate a project applicant to bring in every single one of them, especially the opposition letters. So having an opportunity for the neighbors to bring it in themselves or mail it in easily would certainly encourage that these things don't happen again, right? I'm not questioning, the project applicant's intent here, but, just want to make sure that, all the bases are covered.
My 2 cents would be to change it and have it returned to the city regardless.
Not a bad idea.
As long as we make it easy on the neighbors, because if, it's a burden to make sure it gets back in the mail. If we provide an envelope, postage paid, perfect, right? But, it's an extra burden that they didn't ask for.
The postage paid part would have to probably come from the applicant.
That's fine, they can give us some stamps.
Yeah, no, they will be part of their application.
That's fine,
fees.
yeah. Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
If I may, through the chair, maybe we can just, staff can take these suggestions back. We're in announcement time, so we're kind of going into discussions about process and procedure that is not agendized. And so I think we've expressed that we would like a clear process. We'd like to make sure the neighbors have a clear way to express. And I would like to suggest that we don't discuss any further, and maybe staff can kind of think through that, and at some point we can talk about procedure a little bit more as well.
Very well. More announcements. Just pure announcements. That's all? Marjan?